It's okay not to be okay, but I promise I'm trying by rayrae118. Chapter 26, Part 2. As the afternoon wore on, Harry began to pick up a sense of fear emanating from Ginny. He knew that they needed to tell her mother about them, but he worried that she wouldn't react the right way. Finally, there was a lull in the conversation and Harry caught Ginny's eye. She nodded imperceptibly and turned back to the adults, clearing his throat. Ginny and I have something we want to tell you, Mrs. Weasley. Sirius and Remus looked at each other, knowing that the couple was finally going to tell the Weasley matron about their relationship. They had kept quiet at the young pair's requests, knowing that they wanted to tell Ginny's mother on their own terms and in person. Amelia could also guess that this was about to be brought up. She had seen the way Ginny had congratulated Harry on his completion of the first task back in November. But on Sirius's request, she had buried that information and not said anything to Arthur or Molly, the few times she had come into contact with them over the last few months. Molly and Bill looked interested, though both noted the lack of reaction from the rest of the group. Harry coughed and looked at Ginny for help. She took his hand and turned to her mother and brother, smiling. "Harry and I are dating," she told them bluntly. Molly gasped and Bill gave Harry an assessing look. He finally nodded his approval, remembering their conversation from the previous summer. "How long?" Molly asked, recovering from her shock. Harry looked down. "Since Halloween," he admitted quietly. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" she asked, looking between her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. Harry and Ginny shared another look. "We wanted to tell you in person, Mum," Ginny explained. "This was the first chance we got. It wasn't something I wanted to just put in a letter." Molly nodded, understanding, as she began to thwart the idea. Harry had always been like a seventh son to her, ever since the first time he'd stayed at the Burrow. She wasn't sure she approved of her 13-year-old daughter having a boyfriend, but if it had to be someone, Harry was probably as good as it got. She made a mental note to have the talk with Ginny as soon as they got home. They had spoken about sex and becoming a woman before, but now that there was an actual man in the picture, it would be good to have a frame of reference. Sorry, guys. I always find that a bit funny. Finally, she smiled, standing up to hug her daughter and the boy she thought of as her seventh son. "I'm happy for you two." She gave her approval, grabbing Harry tightly before stepping back. They all returned to their seats as the others all threw in their congratulations. Sirius and Remus had explained that they had known since the first Hogsmeade weekend, but had to keep it a secret at the young couple's request. Molly was understandably upset, but refrained from actually hexing the men, which could only be a good thing. Though Sirius and Remus wondered if she was just waiting until there were no witnesses. The rest of the afternoon dissolved into questions about how they had spent their time over the year, which made Harry and Ginny blush, and the questions about the Yule Ball. The couple promised to show the adults the pictures Colin had taken. As soon as they had seen them, Harry had requested copies of all of them, giving the third year the necessary funds to pay for it, plus a little extra, commenting if he had any others of the two of them, he'd like copies of those as well. Supper was once more a large group event, and Minerva joined them at the Gryffindor table, sitting next to Harry and forcing him to eat something with an unyielding expression that reminded all of the Weasleys of their own mother. Throughout the meal, Harry grew increasingly quiet, until Ginny gave his hand a sharp squeeze. "You'll be fine, Harry. If something goes wrong, I'll be able to tell, and I can get help." Harry nodded imperceptibly. "I know, Gin," he said mentally. "I just want this to be over with already." Ginny agreed. "Me too, Harry. You need to eat something, so that you don't collapse from an empty stomach in the maze. Just finish what's on your plate, all right?" Harry mentally sighed and picked up his fork, slowly but surely finishing the remainder of his rather small meal. Minerva watched in satisfaction, pleased that he seemed to understand that eating was necessary. Soon enough, dinner was over, and with a mass exodus, the entire group surrounding Harry walked with him down to the Quidditch pitch. Outside the arena, Harry received hugs from his friends before Remus, Sirius, and Amelia had their turn. Mrs. Weasley and Bill followed. Ginny was the last one Harry came to. She gave him a hard kiss, stepping back with tears in her eyes. "You would better come back to me, Potter," she growled lowly. Harry smiled, kissing her once more, oblivious to Mrs. Weasley's discomfort and the knowing smirks their friends were wearing. Always, he whispered, pulling back once more. With a last look at their group, he moved inside to join the other champions. Cedric offered him a one-armed hug, smiling reassuringly. Fleur and Victor both offered their own smiles, which Harry returned, though he didn't think his expression did much to put anyone at ease. Slowly, the school assembled in the stands, and Bagman was once more announcing the task and the points as they were. With a short whistle blast, Harry was running into the dark maze. He paused at the first intersection and used a quick point me spell before taking the left path. He kept going, hearing the whistle sound twice more, indicating they were all in the maze now. He met a few obstacles and was starting to worry him. Shouldn't he have run into more challenges by now? A shocking cold drew his attention forward, and with a frown he took in the Dementor coming towards him. He thought about his first kiss with Ginny as he shouted, "Expecto Patronum!" Prongs shot out of his wand, but as it charged right through the Dementor. A boggart, then, Harry thought. Ridiculous! Harry put as much power behind the spell as he could, and instead of the Dementor becoming less frightening, it simply burst into a shower of sparks, raining down on the path. Harry continued forward. He ran into a strange fog that turned the world upside down for a few moments, and one of Hagrid's blast-ended scroots, which he dealt with decisively before a scream from his right hand had him running in that direction before he really thought about it. "Harry, what's going on?" Ginny's mental voice sounded worried. Harry arrived at the scene and found Fleur unconscious on the ground. He sent up red sparks as he replied, "Fleur's out. I sent up sparks so that someone can get her. I don't know what happened." Ginny was silent for a moment. "Be careful." She sounded even more worried. Harry mentally nodded as he moved on, using another point me spell to direct him. Finally, he saw a clearing ahead. Unfortunately, there was something rather large blocking it. It had the body of a lion, but the head of a woman. As he approached, her amber eyes turned towards him. "Congratulations, champion, on making it this far. That what you seek is just beyond, but in order to pass, you must answer my riddle. Should you answer correctly, I will step aside. Should you decide not to answer, you may leave unharmed. However, should you answer incorrectly, you will die." Harry nodded nervously. "Can I hear the riddle?" The Sphinx nodded. "Listen carefully. First think of a person who lives in disguise, who deals in secrets and tells naught but lies. Next tell me which is always the last thing to mend, the middle of middle and the end of end. And tell me which is a sound often heard during the search for a hard-to-find word. Now string them all together and answer me this. Which creature would you be unwilling to kiss?" Harry considered the riddle for a moment. A person who lived in disguise who dealt with secrets. Like a secret agent? But that wouldn't work. A spy, then. Then the last thing to mend, middle of middle, end of end. It took him another moment, but finally the letter D came to mind. He wasn't sure about the next two lines, so he moved on. The final two lines also gave him a bit of a challenge. Stringing the two clues together gave him Spy D. But he didn't think of what the answer could be. A creature he would be unwilling to kiss. A picture of a gigantic creature he had had the misfortune to meet a few years ago previously sprang into his mind, and he smiled. "The answer's a spider, isn't it?" The Sphinx bowed low and stepped aside. "Congratulations, champion. You have answered correctly. You may pass." Harry nodded his thanks and hurried down the path towards the clearing he knew. He could now see housed the glowing Triwizard Cup. A shout as he entered the clearing drew Harry's attention, and he saw Cedric making his way down another path. Seeing movement behind the prefect, Harry pointed. "Cedric, behind you!" The Hufflepuff glanced over his shoulder and threw himself to the side, just in time to miss being speared by the Acromantula's sharp pincer. Together, the Hogwarts students subdued the creature, shooting stunners for all they were worth. until with a squeal the beast scuttled away from the students and back into the shadows. Harry and Cedric looked at each other, and then at the cup. "You take it," Cedric said, stepping back. Harry shook his head. "No, you deserve it more." Cedric was unyielding. "If anyone deserves to win, Harry, it's you. That spider would have gotten me if you hadn't warned me. And you've been the best in all the tasks. The cup is yours." Harry looked at the older boy. He sighed. "You're not going to take it, are you?" It wasn't a question. Harry thought for a moment, before he made a suggestion. "Together, then. It'll still be a Hogwarts victory." Cedric thought for a moment, before he nodded. "On the count of 3? The 2 students made their way over to the cup as Cedric counted down. 1. Harry reached out his hand. 2. He could feel Ginny's pride through their bond. 3. Cedric said, and they both grasped the cup, as a familiar pulling sensation tugged Harry behind his navel. End of chapter 26. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Welcome back to my channel. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a video. So, here we go, people. You think Cedric will be okay? Think Harry will be okay? What's gonna happen? Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. See you next video. Bye.